Hello everyone, I'm Lazy Grouse, and the Dwarfs finally got another DLC after almost 8 years of waiting. And it brought some great new changes and additions to the Dwarfs that isn't just the new legendary lord and units. So I figured I'd share my 5 favorite changes to the Dwarfs as a whole in Thrones of Decay and the accompanying update. So first of all, we got shield walls, and it feels so quintessentially dwarf that they have shield walls, because it fits so well with their identity of a stalwart sturdy front line that protects their more fragile artillery and other ranged units. So it's just a great tool for the dwarves to fit into one of their most traditional of all strategies, the dwarf box. And the most important reason why I like the shield wall is, it's just awesome. Shield walls are awesome. But mechanically, it gives the more basic shielded dwarf more missile resistance, more missile block, double their mass so they can withstand charges, but they can't use it in melee and they can't run. But what kind of dwarf needs to run anyway? Except for slayers, I guess, but they don't get shield walls anyway. And the Ironbreakers gets an even better version that deflects missiles, including artillery, so they're just an unmovable block of steel and grudges. Unfortunately, both of these shield walls are locked behind research, but you can get the more basic one pretty quickly, but I kinda wish that this was just a basic ability that they always have, because it just feels right for them. And then we have the reworked Big Book of Grudges, and I'm talking specifically about the legendary grudges, because I didn't like the old Book of Grudges very much, and the new legendary grudges are awesome. It's basically a collection of quests that you can devote an entire campaign to complete just one, so it gives you some really fun goals to fight towards, like defeating your evil fallen Dwarf cousins, reenacting the War of the Beards, or War of Vengeance as we're talking Dwarf, by fighting the elves, or taking out the 2 major Skaven strongholds of Hellpit and Skavenblight. And of course everyone's favorite, the Karak 8-Peak Grudge. And there is some thematic grudges for every legendary lord, but anyone can do it and you get some fittingly strong rewards for doing it too. And the next one is, Gotrek is a legendary hero and he's got a skill tree. And I guess Felix do too. And I guess this isn't really a dwarf change, but it is a change to a dwarf, so I think it counts. And I really like Gotrek and Felix, and now they're permanent, so you can just have them stick around the entire campaign and just build your own D&D party. And I think that's great. And he got some pretty good stuff in his skill tree that buffs the entire army, and some are only against specific factions, but that makes sense. He's been fighting everything and anything across the world, so he knows how things work. And he gets really strong with all of his combat skills. And I guess while we're at it, Felix also gets some pretty good skills, but his mostly support other characters, which just feels kinda right. And again, not a change specifically to the dwarves, but I think it counts anyway. And the next one is just the greatest gift Ungrim could ever dream of, because we can have full Slayer armies now. Although, it's not specific to Ungrim, but I don't know why anyone but Ungrim would have an all-Slayer army. But with the addition of the Slayer Pirates for some shooting, Doomseekers for Slayers that can actually fight infantry without being completely useless, and the Goblin Hewer for artillery, if you can call that wily coyote looking machine artillery. There's even the Dragon Slayer for extra characters and Demon Slayer to lead secondary armies. It's like we've entered a Slayer renaissance, and it's great. And finally, my precious air fleet has been reworked a bit. There's now more entities in the gyrocopters and bomber units, which just makes sense and it feels kinda right. But most important is the brimstone guns are now flamethrowers, and I love flamethrowers. So they just became one of my favorite units, because it's just so much fun to fly up on the side of an enemy unit or a bunched up blob and just flame them all down. There's nothing better than a good flamethrower hit, and I could play with these all day. So that's my favorite changes. There are other changes and additions of course, like the tech tree, which I think is fine, and the Age of Reckoning, which I think is fun but needs some heavy tweaking. But apparently CA is working on it, so I think it's gonna get better. But these are my favorites in Thrones of Decay and the update. What are your favorites? Or do you think any of these are changes for the worse? I'd love to hear your opinions, and thanks for watching. I'll see you later. Bye bye.